Community Interest Company, which is our full title, or otherwise known as the PCP-ICoP. So thank you all for coming along to this meeting, which is a requirement for us to have an annual general meeting of our CIC and for it to be formally recorded. So we are recording this meeting, so we have a record of it. And could I also ask, if you didn't mind, if you could go into the chat and actually write your name into the chat so we have a record of everybody who is present, and then we can just cut and paste that out of there. So I hope that's okay. So if you can just do that in the background while we're carrying on. We're not going to do introductions because that would take up a lot of our time, and I think we all generally know each other in various ways. So instead, we're going to crack on with the details of the meeting. What we're going to do in this time that we have for an hour or so is just firstly go through a background of the ICoP and what we're about to remind everybody what our focus is and what we're doing. And then going to look at our achievements for 2024, and various people in the meeting are going to speak to different sections of that. And then finally, we're going to then end with a kind of suggested plan for 2025, what we're proposing, and hopefully get some volunteers for some of those activities. And then very finally is then have an open mic session for any questions or comments that anybody wants to raise about where we're at and what we're doing. So I hope that's okay, and that it will keep us busy for the next hour or so. So welcome everybody, and thank you for being members of the ICoP for this growing community and this important community that we're a part of. So as I said, the PCP-ICoP is a community interest company, which CIC, which is a version of a registered charity in the UK charity laws, and it's registered in Scotland under the Scottish charitable laws. We have a board of directors. As you can see here, so myself and Tanya are the permanent directors. Then we have directors from the UK and Ireland, and that's currently Caroline Dixon, who unfortunately can't be with us this evening, and Margaret Codd, who's from Ireland. Then we have European directors, and that's Sean Cardiff in the Netherlands, Christoph van Dach in Switzerland, and then Ria Mackay holds the wonderful position of the rest of the world, but is based here in Australia. And then we have digital director, who's Web Tiagi, who's also here in Sydney. And then we have an observer role, which has been Honor McGregor from Scotland. And I'll come back to that at the very end. Just to remind us what our objectives are. So our vision is really about trying to continue to work in this global community to get person-centered practice as the preferred way of practicing in healthcare globally. And our ambition in that context is to really, I guess the best way I would describe it is to agitate, to advocate, and to produce new knowledge, to translate new knowledge and implement new knowledge that can help health systems to move towards that vision. We are a small group with our growing group we'll come back to as well, with big ambitions, and I think that's really important that we have that kind of ambition for this kind of vision, which is a continuous one that is not going to go away anytime soon. I did want to just spend a little bit of time on kind of connecting with the idea of a community of practice and what we mean by that. And I guess this is important because one of the things we may want to talk about in the open mic session is how we create a community that is really active, that is really engaged in the activities and really generating activity within the community itself. And a community of practice has three components to it. It has a domain of practice, it has the community itself, and it has the practice. And so in our sense, the domain is the shared interest, the shared competence, the shared commitment that we all hold to person-centeredness and person-centered healthcare. And that's what holds us together. and why gives us our reason to exist as we currently are. And then the community is essentially the kind of activities, the opportunities we have, the way we relate, the way we connect, and how we form this community, which in our case is a mostly virtual online community, where we come together for a set activities, etc., etc. And then thirdly, the practice, of course, means that all of us who are engaged in this work have got some degree of expertise in relation to person-centered healthcare. And it's through the sharing of that expertise that we build this community and start to influence, advocate, generate, and share knowledge. And I wanted to remind us of that because one of the issues I think would be good for us to discuss when we get to the open mic session is how we really create the community in a sense. That it's, this is not a network per se. It's not a group who are driving an agenda as a group of directors. It really is a community of practice that is owned by all of the community, and where the community is needed in order to make it as effective as it can be. And I want you to just hold that in your head as we go through tonight and think about at the very end what way we can activate the community even further, and continue to grow its effectiveness together. But at the moment, we have in our strategy, which we did spend some time getting together as we formed into a CIC, we have 5 strategic themes that we work with. And I just want to say a little bit about each of those before handing over to particular colleagues who are going to speak to actions that show these themes coming into reality. Our first strategic area is knowledge and theory generation, translation and implementation. And really this continues the work that the ICoP has been engaged for many years around concept and theory development, and doing research that really tests out some of these concepts and theories in various ways, both in healthcare, in healthcare practice and in education. And embedded within this theme are 2 particular subparts of the ICoP. That is the SciCoP, which is the Student International Community of Practice for higher degree students, and the PD-ICoP, which is the Postdoctoral International Community of Practice. And Ria Mackay will say a little bit more about those later. Then our second theme is connecting with persons, people, and populations. And this is really about our global reach, about developing our network to become a truly global network. And again, it'd be interesting to discuss later how we continue to grow that reach and significance of the ICOP, as a group of highly committed people in this space. Clear, visible, simple messaging is really to do with our communication systems and are using our communication in order to manage and build our global network. And again, Webb will be speaking to that a little bit later. Our next theme is growing shared understanding, and this is all about publications. It's about programs that we do to develop competence and skill in this space, as well as different approaches we use to dissemination. And again, myself and Tanya will speak to that a bit later. And then co-creating with persons with lived experience is our final strategic theme. And this is about how we bring people with lived experience, representatives of people with lived experience and advocacy groups into the ICOP as members. And we have a lot of work to do in this space, and we haven't really done anything of significance yet. I can share some things that are happening, but again, would be a really useful space for us to discuss. And it's a really important area that we do need to put some energy into. So there are strategic themes, and a sense of the strategic actions that go with them. To reiterate, the ICOP is an amalgam of 3 kind of communities in a way. So it's the ICOP itself, which is this bigger community, then the SciCoP, as I've mentioned, and the PD ICOP. We have a departmental membership fee of £220 and an individual membership fee of £50. And we aren't intending for that membership fee to increase at this moment in time, on We will relook at it through further annual general meetings as we go forward. And of course, I hope you're all familiar with our website, which Webb, as the digital director, very much created. We're very grateful to him for doing that and continues to manage that space. So that's an overview of how the ICoP is formed, how it is structured, and the fundamental architecture of it as a community. So we now want to move into the achievements of 2024. What have we actually achieved? Because when we formed the ICoP, we made commitments about what it is that members would get for their fee. And so as directors of the ICoP, we've been very committed to ensuring that we have those actions in place and that we are actively working on them. So the first area is around marketing and communication that picks up the messaging and picks up connecting with people, and populations. And I'm going to hand over to Webb, who's going to talk to that.
Thank you, Brendan. Am I able to get the control? Are you happy to move the slides, Brendan?
I'll move them for you. I don't know how to
Perfect,
give you
thank you.
control. I don't think I can.
So just to talk briefly about the achievements within the marketing and communication space. Thank you. Perfect. Thank you, Brendan. We have had several achievements in the community in the past year. So after the community moved into the membership model that we have, we were able to develop a new website, which Brendan just showed you a glimpse of. For the PCP-ICoP. The directors launched this meeting back in 1st of May 2023, and that has actually brought a lot of digital visibility to our values, to our members, and to the work that we do. Just to reiterate, this is, of course, an ever-evolving space, and I'm really grateful for all of your contributions, past and, of course, future. They're all much appreciated, so please keep them coming. Any achievement that you would like to feature on the website would be much appreciated. It's also another digital platform for you to showcase the work that you do as a member of the PCP-ICoP. Since the launch last year, we have launched also a quarterly newsletter series, which consolidates all of the updates in an email format. We have also launched a new X account, or Twitter as it was called before, to share the updates and news, and also have a new YouTube channel, which has got some videos just now, but also is intending to host all the videos that are going to happen in terms of the future events of PCP-ICoP. As a result of these developments, Bren, would you be able to move?
Oh, can you not? Would it not go?
No, it's not going.
Oh, I have to do settings. It's going now?
Oh. No, still doesn't allow me to do that. As a result of these developments, our network has significantly grown since last year. We currently have 91 members, out of which 20 are the departmental members. We come from 36 different organizations across 12 different countries in the two hemispheres that we had our symposium about. In the next slide, I am presenting some web analytics, which essentially detail. Bren, would you be able to? Thank you. Sorry. So in the slide, essentially, it's a history of the visitors, digital visitors that we have had on our website, and the interest that we have in general in the community online. So this is from May 2023 up to October this year. You'll notice a spike in and around February this year, which was when we had the annual symposium, which is one of the biggest events that generated interest. In terms of our unique visitors, we have roughly 6,000 unique visitors, which is a good indication that there is quite a lot of interest that is being generated throughout the website. And then finally, if we go to the next slide, Brendan, please.
Can you try changing now? I think it might be okay.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. So in terms of marketing and revenue, majority of this marketing and revenue, sorry about the small slide there, but at the bottom there in the legend, majority of these visitors, they come from direct Google search, while some of them also come from social media and email invites. But as always, I would like to reiterate that we depend on our members to spread the word, to increase our membership. So any help regarding that would always be much appreciated. That's all, Brendan, in this area.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Webb. So I'm now handing over to Tanya to talk about research collaborations, which picks up 3 of our strategic themes through this area of work. So, Tanya.
Thank you very much, Brendan. Everybody hear me okay? Yep, good. So there's been quite a bit of activity in this area, and we could talk at length about each of them, but if I just want to give you a flavour of that activity over the last year. So Brendan led a large-scale international project funded by Erasmus+, which was looking at person-centeredness in the curriculum. That project completed about, oh my goodness, maybe a year, 18 months ago. And as an output from that work, we developed, we published a handbook, which is kind of gives a whole overview of kind of approaches and tools and techniques that you can use to develop person-centeredness in the curriculum. But we would argue it also has quite a lot of relevance for developing person-centeredness generally across teams, organizations and networks. So we're very proud of that output. So please do, if you haven't already looked at the book, have a little browse and see how that might help with your ongoing work. The second area is some new work we've been doing around our instruments. So as many of you will know, we have a suite of instruments that are aligned to the person-centered practice framework. So we have the person-centered practice inventory for staff, which was our original framework developed many years ago. And the work that we're doing on that is to try and shorten that framework. It has 56 items in the original framework. So Webb and my colleague, Dr. Paul Slater, myself and Brendan have been doing some work with some of our international partners to try and get a version that would be more user-friendly. That work is currently ongoing. We're just in the process of developing a published paper, and hopefully you'll see that in the public domain in the very near future. We're hoping early 2025. So that's the person-centered practice inventory staff, but we also have a person-centered practice inventory for students, and that was developed through in partnership with our colleague who did that as part of her PhD work, Dr. Deirdre O'Donnell. And then we have also got a kind of a newish kid on the block, which is the person-centered practice inventory for care. And that is quite a short tool that focuses on the person-centered processes and measures actually person-centered care. So care experienced by patients and clients, the choice of term that fits your context. So very exciting work in that space. And obviously, the more we can encourage our members to use these tools in their work, then we get bigger data sets, and Webb can just work magic, and we can make them continue to refine and strengthen them as we go forward. The third area is our influencing paper that Brendan and I are in the process of writing, and this reflects some work that aligns to the Erasmus+ work around person-centeredness in the curriculum. So we kind of are really acutely aware that we'd like to develop a kind of an organizational development framework that is underpinned by the person-centered practice framework, but allows healthcare organizations to carve a clearer path in terms of how they can bring person-centeredness to their system. So we're really, really aware that we want to try and bring around system-wide change across healthcare organizations. And this work is beginning, and this influencing paper, hopefully you will see again, probably be early 2025, which will start to articulate our vision in that space and what we're actually trying to achieve. The next 3 components, I'd like to talk a little bit more detail about the leadership project that we're undertaking with ICoP members. And then I'm going to hand over to Maria Mackay, who's going to talk about the ICoP and the PD-ICoP. So next slide, Brendan, or not unless you've given me control. Have you given me control?
I'm not sure I have.
For me, no. Brendan, it's all good. Next slide. So the leadership project, I'd like just to highlight this, I suppose, as an example of how members in our community can come together with a real shared passion and interest to do very targeted work in a particular area. So this is a leadership project that is that has been led by Dr. Debbie Baldy. She's the chief investigator on this project, but there are a number of ICoP members working with Debbie to try and develop this work. And we've been meeting, oh my goodness, maybe nearly 2 years. And it's just that kind of idea that these things, when you really want to do them well with rigor and with and being systematic about your approach, that sometimes you've got to invest the time. And we invested a lot of time in this space, and we're really actually quite excited about what the future might look like. So the project was about developing consensus on the content of an educational curriculum designed to develop person-centered leaders. And I don't want to name all our members in case I forget someone, but we are building some of this work on the back of Dr. Sean Cardiff's original PhD work around person-centered leadership. The activities we've undertaken to date have included a rapid scoping of the literature to identify person-centered leadership framework models and curriculums for person-centered leadership development programs. That was interesting. That gave us a really good kind of indication of where we wanted to go. The second activity has been a mapping of existing person-centered leadership programs being developed by ICoP members. And then the third is we have a set of common curricular content and delivery principles. We have developed that from that initial work. And what we want to do, and this is where we can really bring the ICoP to life in many ways, but this is just one example. The next step is we want to undertake a Delphi study. So we want to gain consensus from our experts on the core components that we have come up with to see if they land right and how we might be able to refine them, refresh on the initial work that we've done. And I was chatting to Brendan about this, and I think this is a really important area where others who are doing work and they need that voice, that expertise, I think that is a really untapped area within the ICoP that we could be really using, quite cleverly. So please do look out for the information coming out around the Delphi study. And I know some of my colleagues who are working on that team with Debbie might be online, and in the open mic session might want to offer their perspective on that. So I hope that's giving you a sense of where we're at with this kind of these 3 strategic areas. And now I'm just going to hand over to Maria, who's going to talk about the ICoP and the PD-ICoP. Thank you.
Thanks, Tanya.
Ria, I think I have given you control of the slides, Ria. So
Okay, let me have a try.
no.
No.
Okay. Sorry. You see now?
Sorry, I'll just put myself back on mute. Oh, no, it's gone again.
You got
There
it?
we go. Yes. Yeah. So the first thing I'll talk about is ICoP. So there are many, I think, previous members of ICoP probably online with us today. And what we're wanting to do is to relaunch ICoP. So ICoP has been in existence in a number of formats, I suppose, and at a number of institutions, most recently at Queen Margaret University, where I was a ICoP member. And now we're bringing it under the umbrella of the ICoP and having a more international, I suppose, focus on it. So I went to Queen Margaret and met with the students earlier this year and had a chat with them about the kind of change of direction. And the aim of ICoP is to create this collaborative space for shared learning during doctoral studies and to support students through that journey, but also to create that shared theoretical underpinning of person-centered practice and research. And many people do their research around different aspects, and it's great learning when we come together collectively. And so to establish a group of doctoral students who are open to offering and receiving high support, high challenge. And it helps you to grow in your understanding of person-centered theory and practice. So we're looking to re-establish it in 2025. We've set up a meeting for the 5th of November, and the people who are financial members of ICoP have been invited to that, and I've reached out. There's a few who are non-financial, so any of them in your organisations, I'd encourage you to reach out to them and ask them if they, if they want to become financial before the 5th of November. And the idea of that meeting is to reset our direction for ICoP and to think about what 2025 will look like. I think it's a really exciting time in regard to ICoP and thinking about, what this community practice can now, I suppose, further develop. So there are a couple of publications that will inform that. So there was one, I know FarmK is definitely online, but there's probably a few other who are involved in the original publication around ICoP. And then there was another one that Kate, myself and Kelly, who's online, have been involved in. And so we've tried to kind of document, I suppose, the process or the progress of ICoP over time and the impact it's had for doctoral students. And we'll be using those two publications to relaunch the ICoP. So if you are a doctoral student, so the criteria is that you need to be enrolled in a PhD or doctoral program, and that has a focus on the underpinnings of person-centered practice. If you haven't already nominated and you'd like to, my email is there, and we'd be very happy to include anyone else who'd like to join us along. So Brendan and I will be leading this ICoP moving forward. It will also maintain to have a very strong student focus as well. So we will talk at the meeting about what that might look like and who might take the initial leadership around the student-led aspects of ICoP as well. So I'll now go on to, no, sorry, Brendan, I still can't move it.
It's okay. There you go.
So the postdoctoral ICoP, and we established this earlier this year. And I know there are a couple of people, I know Emma's online for sure, and Emma's been really instrumental in the work we've been doing in this group. And it's about establishing a group of like-minded persons and thinking again about offering ourselves that kind of growth in our understanding of person-centered practice and theory, and just creating that space for us to learn with and from each other. And I think it really generated from the fact that many of us had such wonderful experiences in ICoP, and we learned so much with and from each other that we wanted to continue that along. So again, the criteria to join this group is to have undertaken your doctoral studies or postdoctoral studies in an area that is connected with person-centered practice, and everyone is welcome to join this. And when you click your membership, there are the tabs for you to click if you want to be a member of ICoP or ICoP. But if you didn't do that and you'd like to join, just flick me an email and I can work with with Web around how we might make sure you get on the list. I'm the director that is looking after this. So currently we have 16 financial members, and there's quite a few non-financial members. So again, if there are people in your organisation who want to do it, I'd really encourage you to help them to think about it. We are going to have a meeting across the two hemispheres. And I think one of the issues that has really arisen from postdoctoral ICoP is that there are more people in Australia now who are, I suppose, involved in person-centered practice. And that is a direct result, I suppose, of Brendan moving over here, as well as, the influence that Jan had over such a long period of time as well. So the time zones, I think, are quite challenging. And at both meetings, we're going to have a talk about the time zones, because I suppose what ultimately happens is that the time zones are in working time for the UK and very much not in working time for the Southern Hemisphere. So we're going to talk about flexibility and how we might do that and how we need to adjust that as times change as well. And I think that's been one of our great challenges in the PD-ICoP is getting, busy people schedules in a time that we can all get together. We are working on a research project, and that is around person-centered research methodology that was published by Angie and Sean. And we have undertaken some research, and we're trying to do the last steps of data analysis and publish that work. So we have been able to achieve that, but I think time zones has been our big problem. And I think that will be, I think some of the conversations we need to have is, do we start a Southern and a Northern Hemisphere project, or do we amalgamate them all into one? So I think that will be a really good thing to talk about later when the mic's opened up.
Thanks, Ria. That's really helpful. Just before I move to the next section, those of you who've joined us a bit late, you're very welcome. And if you haven't already, if you could just put your name in the chat so we have a record of your attendance, that would be really helpful. Thank you. So the next area of action that we want to share is around the theme of knowledge sharing, which picks up all 5 of our strategic themes. And the activities here are really around spaces and places that we create for us all to share knowledge. And in 2024, we launched the ICoP Symposium, and which in many ways was a very successful event, but we could have had a lot more participants than we did. We very much did this as a test run in many ways, with very little resource and in a very short time scale. It is a wonderful model because it addresses the issue that Ria was talking about, which is that it was essentially a 24-hour symposium, with it kicking off in the morning in Australia, and then being picked up just as it was ending in Australia, being picked up in the evening in the UK for UK and Europe. So we had some amazing presentations, all of which are on our website, and a really good engagement. But we certainly know, certainly from the Australian experience, we could have had a lot more engagement, and we'll talk a bit about that later in terms of planning for a 2025 symposium. There was also the Gothenburg conference, the Gothenburg Center for Person-Centered Care, the first global conference in person-centered care, which was held earlier this year. And many of us were there, which was a wonderful event and a joy to be at. As I said there on a few occasions, it was such a privilege to be at an event where everybody was committed to person-centeredness and not just the one person doing the one talk. And we had a very strong profile there. As an ICoP, we held I led a workshop on behalf of the ICoP that ran over a couple of days. Also had a keynote, but also we had a lunchtime session to explain and present what the ICoP is about to people who weren't members but who were at the conference, and to encourage new members. And we did pick up some new members from that event. Other people were also presenting who are members of the ICoP, including Webb and many others of you in the room. So that was a really high profile event for us, and delighted that we were able to have such a strong presence there. Something exciting that has happened is happening just now is the launch of a special issue on frontiers in health services, which is a special issue or special topic, as they're referred to in Frontiers, called the State of the Art of Person-Centered Healthcare Global Perspectives. Since that was launched, I have since become the Associate Director it's called a Specialty Editor of Frontiers in Health Services, which is fantastic, and I'm really delighted about that. But the where we're at the moment is that the state of the art special topic is having a lot of interest, and actually a lot of interest from members of this ICoP. We have about 13 kind of extended summaries of papers already submitted that will hopefully turn into full papers when it's fully published next year. So that's very exciting and just shows the level of interest there is. And once we have established that, then we can continue to do it as a special issue every year, so we can continue to use that as a platform to really get the knowledge that we want to share out there. And Frontiers is a very large online presence. And of course, alongside that, there have been a lot of members' books and lectures and presentations on podcasts, many of whom in this meeting have shared them with us already, or have asked Webb to upload them onto the website. So they are there as a resource. And if you have done something by way of publication that you want to share with other members, then please get in touch, and it can be uploaded to the resource section of the website. And again, a great way for us to build our collective knowledge. And then the second area of this has been a webinar series, which Caroline Dixon and Christoph van Dach have been leading. And I think I'm handing over to you, Christoph, who's going to say a bit about the webinar series.
Yes, thank you, Brendan. Happy to look back at our webinar series we organized for this year, and we will organize also for next year. Our vision for this series is addressing current topics, but not only just discussing topics, but also providing a platform for exchange, for research and practice, that we have current research results, but also practice development projects which can be discussed and exchanged worldwide. Then we would like really to enable participation and discussion on this series, that everybody who is there also can bring themselves into the discussion. And then we would like to facilitate the exchange also. We did that during this first series here in 2024. We developed it step by step, also based on feedback we had from the participants. And I think now we really have quite a good platform for this exchange. On the next slide, we see the topics we did for this year. Yeah, you see it's a different kind of topics we addressed, and also different professions who presented in this webinar series. And the last one will be in November 21st. It will be Sean and Titske, which will talk about collaborating for partnership, a project they have there in their they did together. So these are the topics, and we will go on with that in the next year. And we are very interested also, if you have any ideas for topics, please write Caroline or me, and we try to bring that into the next year's series. For whom is it? It's for PCP-ICoP members, which can join freely the webinars, and it's for all healthcare professions. And here we see one of the examples. We had Jean-Paul Thieling, which talked about his person-centered Lean Six Sigma model he developed through the last years, and was an interesting, very good exchange and discussion about this model. Thank you, Brent.
Great, thanks, Christoph. And as you said, we will be coming back wanting ideas about the future series. And again, these are all recorded, I believe, and are sitting on our resource page as a resource as well. So just to give a brief summary of our financial report, we are not a wealthy community by any stretch of the imagination, but we're in a much more solid position than we were. Our total revenue for the last financial year has been just short of £10,000. And individual memberships was £2,400, and department membership was £7,260. We're a very lean organization because we all volunteer our time to this, and so we don't spend a lot of money at the moment. And in many ways, that's quite deliberate, because we're trying to build up a decent resource that can help us to do things like really support the symposium and take some of the pressure off of web in particular in that and that kind of work. So we actually build up enough revenue that we can invest in some of the areas we want to work in. So our current balance is £8,828.26. And of course, we are very dependent on the membership fees for that. So building our membership is critical to growing our financial resource to enable us to do more work that we want to do. But I'm very content that we have reached that point after really just over 1 year one full year of action. Then that's not bad given where we started from. So coming to the second last part of our agenda, which is to highlight what we as directors are proposing as activities for 2025. I do want to say these are not written in tablets of stone. And as I've said at the outset, this is a community of practice, and members should feel able to connect with other members and propose areas of action that can get going. And we're really keen to support that, as well as if we agree with this plan to have members join in bringing it to life. So as I said, I guess our number one priority at this point for all of us is to grow membership. And even if every current member got one new member to join, then obviously we would double our membership, and that would be really, really significant. So I'm kind of appealing to our members to actively engage your friends, colleagues, partners, people who you're working with, collaborating with, to join the ICoP. We do have a set of resources on the website with the logo that you can see here, this slide templates that you can use in your presentations and things that you're doing yourself to profile the ICoP. And I'd really want to encourage you to do that. You can download them and you can, well, actually, I think they're on our Teams space, which you all have access to as a member. And you can download those and use them to promote the ICoP, and I'd really want to encourage you to do so. We are aiming to have another symposium in 2025, but we're aiming to do it towards the end of the year in October or November 2025, which gives us a longer lead in for planning. We had a very short time for planning with the 2024 event because we needed to get something launched, but we're going to spend a lot longer planning the 2025 event. And again, we're really asking for volunteers who might be willing to join an organizing committee. I should say at this point that if you want to volunteer for anything right now, then please put it in the chat. That would be really helpful because then we have a record of that being of who is volunteering for what. So we're really looking for volunteers for the planning committee for the 2025 symposium. As Christoph said, we're going to have continue our webinar series in 2025. And again, we're looking for ideas that you might have of topics you would like to be covered off in the webinar series. The presenters don't have to be ICoP members, so think widely and think broadly, and of areas that you think would be helpful to everyone in the community. And then if you would also like to volunteer being a host for one of our webinars, that would be great as well, to get some experience in a very safe place to chair, to facilitate a conversation, and to make that happen. So again, if you have ideas or you wish to volunteer, please let us know. Or if you want to do that now, put it in the chat. Our fourth commitment is to make the ICoP a success, and you've heard from Ria on what we're planning to do in that, which is very exciting, and we're really excited about getting that going again. But as Maria also said, we would like for one of the higher degree students in the ICoP to step forward to be the student lead, working with Maria and myself in developing this ICoP. So if you're interested in doing that, again, please let us know or put it into the chat. And as you said, we already have a date set for that first meeting to get planning. And 5, again, as you've heard from Ria, is to re-energize the PD ICoP. And you heard the plan from Ria on that, and she's going to be leading on that, which is great. Following the success of our collaboration with the Gothenburg Center for Person-Centered Care, we had a follow-up meeting, myself with colleagues from there, and we are aiming to hold a small ICoP GCPCC engagement event in Switzerland. It's highly likely that I'm going to be over in Switzerland, also in Denmark and other countries in Europe in the middle of next year. So we're currently exploring the potential of organizing a small event to do some brainstorming, to do some planning of what might be possible in collaboration, and hopefully also hold a ICoP face-to-face event there. But we will keep you posted about that as it develops. It's not finalized yet, but I think it's quite an exciting potential. The 7th area, which is one I feel very strongly about us getting moving on, is to really establish lived experience perspective through non-governmental organization partnership with the ICoP. Again, there was somebody from this perspective at the GCPC event. And I have engaged with her, and we are aiming to try and bring her on to work with us to look at developing this whole part of our work. But we haven't done that yet, and it won't happen till next year. But again, really keen to hear your ideas on making this this work rather than something that's just tokenistic. Tanya mentioned the influencing paper that she and I are currently working on, which we will hopefully get finished by the end of the year and start putting out there. The idea of these influencing papers is that they're very short, kind of 1 or 2 sides of paper that can be distributed widely, doing something that's kind of influencing the person-centered space. So again, if you have some ideas about, provocations, perspectives that could be profiled, not that's going to require a huge amount of work, something that can be redeveloped, can be done pretty quickly, can be done succinctly, then we would love to hear those ideas from you as well. As a focus for next year, as what areas we want to influence. And also the collaborative project. So this year's collaborative project has been the PCP-IS short form, which Tanya has explained where we're at with that, and hopefully will get published soon. But what other collaborative project do you think would be helpful? The leadership project is a good example of the members getting hold of something and really just running with it, and very exciting area. Are there other areas that we can do collaboration on and that we can drive forward that would be high priority? And then finally, we do need to revisit program delivery. The ICoP or the ICoP has been historically, we used to run an action research course, did that for a number of years. We also pilot tested 3 curriculum schools during the Erasmus program. And our intention is to revisit all of those programs in 2025 and hopefully launch them as education programs that the ICoP would be running through our collaboration. And finally, just to say that Honor McGregor's time as observer is coming to an end, and we're delighted to have had Honor attend our directors' meetings and participate as an observer. And we have space for a new observer in 2025 if you would like to attend the directors' meetings and be part of that decision making. We have been meeting kind of mostly about once to every 6 weeks, other than during the Northern Hemisphere summer break. And we would welcome anyone who's interested in having that experience. It's good development, good for your CV, good for your career development. So that's our focus for 2025, which when it looks like that is a lot. And we're really, really keen, as I said, as a community of practice to have more people engaged in the development and delivery of all of this program of work, because it cannot just depend on the directors in kind of making all of this happen. It really needs all of us. So that's everything we have to present to you this morning. And now we've got a bit of time for any comments, questions, and I want to see a flurry of activity in the chat with people volunteering for all kinds of things. Would be wonderful to see that happen as well. So it's over to you.
Hi, Brendan. It's Joanne. Can you hear me?
I can.
Morning. Good evening, Brendan. Hi, everybody else. Hi, Northern Southern Hemisphere. Yeah, I just wanted to take this opportunity to congratulate Brendan on being awarded a place at the Lancet table. And I just wanted to just have a couple of minutes. I know it's early days, Brendan, but we've really got to capitalise on this, because I see that it's only going to be about 2.5 years or 2 years or something as a Lancet Commission, which is really short for Lancet. So, yeah, just wanted to get an update on that really from you.
Oh, thank you. For those of you who don't know, I've been appointed as one of the Lancet commissioners on people-centered healthcare for sustainable development goals, which is being led out from the Center for Primary Care at Harvard University. So I'm one of 14 commissioners, and then there's a large advisory group, so total of about 30 people. So very exciting, a lot of work, but really excited to be in it. The work kicks off. The first meeting is later. Oh no, the first meeting is virtual in December, in early December, where we start to map out the work. Then I'm at a meeting in Boston at Harvard University in January, and then we go from there. So the work really is largely, I mean, if you don't know about Lancet commissions, they're very, very large systematic reviews, meta-analyses, huge policy analysis and strategy analysis that comes together as a very large report. And it's just over 2 years of work. So it will report in 2026. It is a huge opportunity for us to shape how person-centeredness is seen in this space and how we link it to the Sustainable Development Goals, which I think was a comment that Famke put into the chat around linking our work to that. So we do have an actual opportunity to make that happen. But Famke, you've got your hand raised. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I just want to take the opportunity because I have to run within 2 or 3 minutes to another meeting. But what I got to understand is that the PCP questionnaires, just like for the student version, has been hosting by this network as well. And I didn't come across the presentation, so I'm just wondering if we are intending to try to translate it. And I've had contact with Deidre about this. How does that work around the questionnaires and the translation? And is there a possibility to join forces in this as well, even if it's across different languages?
Yes, there is. So, I mean, one of the benefits we have now of having formalized in the way we have with the ICoP is that we can systematically do that work in a way that we weren't able to do previously with the PCP-IS. So, you know, the translations of the PCP-IS was an interesting experience in a sense because they happened quite separately and people got on with doing them, and on the whole they engaged either myself or Paul or Tanya or all of us kind of in making that happen on web more recently. So and now we've got this large body of work that happened surreptitiously, really, and with a lot of people very committed to doing that work. I think with both the PCP-IC, which has already started to be translated, and the PCP-IST, there is an opportunity for us to do that as a collaborative work, and to do that kind of translation in a more joined up way. And if you wanted to kind of propose that as well, Famke, as collaborative work, then absolutely we can do that.
Okay, thanks.
So is this a few volunteering people? Thank you very much. I do totally take the point, Maria, about SDGs. That's a point of debate in itself. And it would be interesting to see how that plays out in this space, given that, you know, they're focused on people-centeredness across the globe. So we'll just see what happens. Any other questions or comments that you want to make? Feel free to jump in.
Hi, Brendan, it's Joanne again. Just before I need to go, just for the sake of everybody online, FONS is, we are employing 2 lived experience leads to our leadership team. They started last week, actually, because we're facilitating a nationwide programme within inpatient mental health settings. And part of the bid was that it was through the social value model. which our government is utilised, which I can send the link to you if you're interested. And it's quite broad, the social value model. So it looks at health inequalities, wider determinants, sustainability, you know, you name it, it's kind of in this model. And in England now, our big bids for big programmes, you have to demonstrate that you are working towards the social value model. So it fits this really well. So I'm sure Kate, you know, once they start and we kind of bed them in a bit more, I'm sure Kate will be back to you to share our early experiences of recruiting persons with lived experience, because it's never been done before in a nursing charity, as far as I know. So we really are vanguards in this space. So yeah, just wanted to let you know.
Fantastic. And maybe that might be a useful webinar presentation next year.
Sure. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah, great idea, Brendan. Thank you.
Great. Yeah. We will pick you up on that.
Okay.
Christoph will have noted already. Bye, Joanne. Thanks as ever.
Okay. Bye.
Michelle, do you want to speak to what you wrote in the chat?
Yes. Hi. And I feel I shouldn't talk because I was late, and I apologize for
Don't worry,
that.
it's fine.
Yeah, no, I as you know, Brendan and Tanya have, you know, I've been involved kind of, let's say, with trying to kind of put a person-centered content within an EHR for some years, and I've done kind of some work with that. But I'm moving actually to a new role in the group of hospitals that I work in, where I'm now kind of using that and developing it even further to share with 2 other hospitals. But I'd really love to do some work with other hospitals or with other areas that are looking at the content of their EHR, which tend to be very technical and just kind of very focused on gathering clinical information rather than person-centered information that we can use for caring in practice. And I think there is an opportunity. I think there's a gap here, that it certainly is something that particularly nurses and other allied health professionals are complaining about within the EHRs as we flood the market with electronic health records, is how they're set up and what the content looks like and what information we're gathering. And I'd really love to explore with colleagues how best to do that. I have some experience, but would need some further help. But I think it may be a space that we need to pay attention to.
So I have a proposition to put to you, Michelle, which is that if you were to get a group of interested small group people in the ICoP to work with you on that, perhaps it could be an influencing paper for next year, because it is very topical.
Absolutely, absolutely, Brendan. Because I think that, you know, everybody is looking at the development of EHRs if they don't have them now, and we have kind of looked at this in much more depth, and it has proven to be very beneficial on, you know, to influence the culture and the context where care is delivered as well. So I would really be interested in working, and I'd be very interested in doing that. And I am moving to a new role, so I have the capacity to be able to do that. I don't have the money though. That's the only thing about papers. And I would like to put that in there, is, you know, is around, you know, being able to publish and whatever else in a space when you don't have a budget. When you don't have a budget for publication, my organization is not interested in that. So it's challenging. And I'm just wondering, can ICoP support members who don't have budgets to be able to kind of get published, kind of, let's say, in those journals?
So I'll pick that up in a second. So firstly, so if we, I think it would be great if you were to send myself or Web kind of just a summary of what you're proposing to want to do, just a couple of paragraphs that we can put out to people in the newsletter and elsewhere, so you can get some people who would be interested. And I suspect it will be, because electronic health records are very much so significant at the moment. And then, you know, the output could be, as I said, an influencing paper. The influencing papers are essentially, as I said, 1 or 2 sides of A4 of paper that we do in-house, and we we promote through the ICoP and its social media, etc. So that doesn't cost anything. We can
Okay.
other than our time, and we can do that. Your wider point about publication is a challenging one, because of course they're quite expensive. Many of these open access in particular. But one of the advantages of positioning ourselves with frontiers is there is potential for us to be able to get significant discounts around some of that, and indeed some free submissions. But it's early days for that, but it's got some potential, and definitely we can work around that. But it's something we will grow as we move forward, is what I want to say about that just now.
Okay.
Hope that's okay, but that's great, Michelle.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. There's been a couple of people. So Hannah, thank you for volunteering on the symposium. And yes, we will let you know what you might be letting yourself in for in more detail. And Tina, Tina, was it? I saw somebody else had volunteered for ICoP. I've lost it now, but we have the recording. Oh, it is Tina. Yes, thank you. And Emma, thank you so much. If you're interested in observing, that would be great. That was Emma Legg, not Emma Hyde. Then let us know. That would be fantastic. And I see some others, so that's all really great. Tanya, you had your hand up.
Yeah, Brendan, just in response to Michelle, I'm happy to kind of engage in that group and get the momentum going, because I think my work around the person-centered nursing midwifery KPIs is swimming in that space. So it would be good if we could get a kind of an interest group going, because I have other people that might be a hook to get them into the ICoP also. So I think it's a really important area. So happy to support.
Great.
Thanks, Tanya.
Thank you. So there's lots of volunteering for symposium and other things, which is fantastic. And we will note all of those and get back to people as well. Are there any final comments, questions, challenges, whatever? If not, we will move to bring the meeting to a close. And to remind everyone that the next webinar is when, Christoph?
November 21st.
So November 21st.
Yes.
Great. Okay, so lots of people coming forward volunteering, which is fantastic. So I think I can draw the meeting to a close. Thank you all very much for coming along tonight, this morning, and for joining in, and also for volunteering. We will also be putting these opportunities out to all of the membership, so that others too will get that opportunity. But also thank you for being committed to the ICoP and committed to making the ICoP as effective as it is, and to continuing to grow it. If I can encourage you to continue to urge your friends, colleagues, collaborators to join in, that would be great. And to work with us in shaping it and moving it into something that really has the kind of impact that we want to have. So thank you all very much. Have a great day if you're at the beginning of your day, or have a great evening if you're like me and towards the end of it. And see you all in November. And thank you all very much again.
Thank you, Brendan.